Ethan Caldwell, a 36-year-old white American CEO of Caldwell Biotech, ruled his world with the precision of a Swiss watch. Each morning in his Back Bay penthouse, he rose at 5:47 a.m., the city's skyline still cloaked in dawn's half-light. Black coffee, sharp and bitter, fueled his review of market reports, the numbers a language he trusted more than words. His life was a fortress of control, every decision calculated, every emotion tucked behind a polished exterior. Ethan was a titan in Boston's financial district, where glass towers gleamed against the harbor. His corner office on the 23rd floor, with its mahogany desk and floor-to-ceiling windows, was a testament to his success. Awards lined the walls, each a marker of a life built on ambition, not sentiment. At 7:30 a.m., as he strode through the marble corridors of Caldwell Biotech, his assistant Sarah matched his pace. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," she said, tablet in hand. "The Henderson merger documents are ready, and the board meeting's been moved to 3:30 p.m. Ethan nodded, adjusting his silver tie clip without breaking stride. "Cancel lunch with Peterson and push the quarterly review to Thursday," he replied, his voice clipped, authoritative. Sarah scribbled notes, unfazed by his brisk demeanor. "Your mother called about Thanksgiving again." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell her I'll consider it," he said, the same answer he'd given for 3 years. Family was a distraction, a variable he couldn't control. His office door closed behind him, sealing him in a kingdom where numbers didn't lie and emotions didn't betray. Ethan settled at his desk, fingers flying across his laptop, dissecting the Henderson acquisition, a $47 million deal 3 months in the making. Success to him was measured in stock prices and profit margins, not in the messy currency of human connection. 5 years ago, that belief had cost him Maya Johnson, the woman who'd once filled his life with warmth he hadn't known he needed. Maya, a Black American teacher whose laugh could light up a room, had vanished without a word, leaving an engagement ring and a void Ethan buried in work. He'd told himself it was for the best. She wanted a future he wasn't ready for, one with family, stability, complications. Yet, late at night, the ring in his desk drawer whispered questions he couldn't answer. By noon, Ethan's temples pulsed from caffeine and the relentless pace of conference calls. He loosened his tie, grabbed his suit jacket, and called to Sarah. "I'm heading to Henderson Industries. If anyone needs me, they can wait." She smiled knowingly. After 5 years, she anticipated his need for control. His black Tesla glided through Boston's congested streets, the hum of its engine a quiet counterpoint to the chaos outside. Ethan preferred driving himself. The solitude, the absence of small talk, let him strategize Henderson's counteroffers in his mind. At a red light on Commonwealth Avenue, his fingers drummed the steering wheel, impatience simmering beneath his composed surface. Then, across the intersection, the world tilted. At a bus stop in front of the old brick library, a woman with rich, dark skin and auburn hair caught the afternoon sunlight as she knelt to tie a boy's shoelaces. Her movements were gentle, patient, starkly contrasting with Ethan's rigid efficiency. Maya Johnson. 5 years since she'd left his life, leaving only silence and 1,000 unanswered questions. Ethan's breath caught, his hands slack on the wheel. The boy, about 4 years old, stood up, his wide, dark eyes locking onto Ethan's through the windshield. Those eyes, unmistakably his own, a mirror of his gaze, pierced through the haze of traffic and memory. The boy's face, framed by tight curls, held Maya's nose and her smile, but those eyes were Ethan's, a genetic echo that stopped his heart. Horns blared as the light turned green, but Ethan couldn't move. His mind raced, calculating the impossible timeline. 5 years since Maya left. The boy, Liam, he'd later learn, looked 4, maybe 5. The math was devastating, a possibility too enormous to process. Maya straightened, taking the boy's hand. Her profile was sharp and beautiful, softened by laugh lines that hadn't been there before. She looked happy, a happiness Ethan hadn't been part of. The boy pointed down the street, his smile crooked, dimpling his right cheek, a mirror of Ethan's own. A city bus pulled up, and Maya guided the boy aboard, her hand protective on his back. As the doors closed, Ethan caught one last glimpse of the child, his possible son, through the window, disappearing into the flow of Boston traffic. His Tesla's engine hummed, his phone buzzed with missed calls from Henderson Industries, but none mattered. Ethan's carefully constructed world had cracks for the first time in 5 years, and through them, a question that threatened to unravel everything. Was that boy his son? The lights cycled to green again, and Ethan pressed the accelerator, his mind no longer on mergers or profits. Instead, it was fixed on auburn hair, familiar eyes, and the devastating possibility that somewhere in this city, he had a child he'd never known, a child whose mother had chosen silence over sharing the truth. 5 years ago, Maya Johnson walked away from Ethan Caldwell, her heart splintered but resolute. In their cramped South End apartment, where sunlight spilled through cracked blinds, she dreamed of a future together, marriage, children, a life woven with love. But Ethan, consumed by Caldwell Biotech's ascent, saw family as a liability. One evening, over takeout Thai, she'd broached the idea of starting a family. His response was a blade. "I'm not ready for complications, Maya. Maybe someday, when the company is stable." His eyes, fixed on his laptop, dismissed her dreams as if they were line items in a budget he couldn't approve. Weeks later, when she discovered her pregnancy, his words echoed, cold, calculated, final. He'd once mentioned terminating accidental pregnancies during a late-night strategy session, his tone as clinical as if discussing stock options. Fearing rejection, Maya chose silence. She packed a single suitcase, left the engagement ring on his nightstand, and disappeared into the night, determined to protect her child from a father who valued profit over people. In Roxbury, Maya rebuilt her life within a community that wrapped her in warmth. Her neighbors, many black families like her own, became her anchor. Mrs. Carter, the retired nurse next door, brought homemade cornbread during Maya's morning sickness. The choir at First Baptist Church, where she sang alto, lifted her spirits through sleepless nights. As a second-grade teacher at Washington Elementary, she poured her heart into her students, their eager questions about the world mirroring her hope for her unborn son. Liam's birth, in a bustling hospital room filled with her sister's laughter and her mother's prayers, was a triumph of love over fear. Raising him alone wasn't easy. Late-night fevers, daycare costs, the weight of being both mother and father. But Maya found strength in Roxbury's rhythm. The chatter of the corner store, the pulse of gospel music, the shared stories of resilience. With his boundless curiosity and crooked smile, Liam became her world, his dinosaur obsession a spark that lit up their modest apartment. Meanwhile, Ethan buried his pain in work, unaware of the life growing across town. The ring Maya left behind sat in a locked drawer, a silent accusation he couldn't face. He told himself she'd left. He wasn't enough, because his drive for success had suffocated their love. Boardroom victories filled the void. Each merger, each stock spike, a bandage over a wound he refused to acknowledge. Yet, in quiet moments, her laugh haunted him, a melody he couldn't replicate in his sterile penthouse. He'd built an empire, but the cost was a loneliness he masked with control. The question of why she left gnawed at him, unanswered, until that moment at the bus stop, when Liam's eyes, his eyes, shattered his carefully constructed world. Now, as Ethan sat in his Tesla, the memory of Maya and Liam at the bus stop replayed like a film stuck on loop. The boy's gaze, a mirror of his own, carried a weight he couldn't shake. His hands trembled on the steering wheel, the Henderson merger forgotten. Boston's traffic flowed around him, horns blaring, but his mind was elsewhere, calculating the timeline. 5 years since Maya left. Liam looked 4, maybe 5. The math was a gut punch, each digit a piece of a puzzle he hadn't known existed. Had she known she was pregnant when she walked away? Why hadn't she told him? The questions burned, mingling with guilt. He'd pushed her away, prioritizing board meetings over her dreams. But the idea that she'd hidden a son, a piece of himself, felt like a betrayal. Ethan drove aimlessly through the city, the harbor's lights glinting like distant promises. Roxbury's streets, vibrant with murals and community hum, felt foreign to him, a world Maya had chosen over his. He imagined her life now, teaching, laughing, raising Liam in a home filled with warmth he'd never offered. The thought of her happiness without him stung, but the possibility of Liam being his son was a sharper pain, laced with wonder. What was he like? Did he love books like Maya? Did he ask questions about the stars, the way Ethan had as a child? The uncertainty was unbearable, a crack in the foundation of his controlled existence. He pulled over near the old brick library, its weathered facade a silent witness to yesterday's encounter. His phone buzzed. Sarah, reminding him of the merger meeting. But he ignored it. Ethan felt something more substantial than ambition for the first time in years. A need to know the truth. He couldn't undo the past, but he could face it. Tomorrow, he'd go to Washington Elementary, where Maya taught. He wouldn't barge into her life or Liam's. He'd learned enough from his mistakes to know that control wouldn't win her trust. But he needed answers, not just for himself, but for the boy who might be his son. As the city pulsed around him, Ethan realized that the numbers he'd trusted for so long couldn't solve this equation. This was about love, loss, and the fragile hope of redemption, a territory he'd never dared to navigate until now. Ethan Caldwell sat in the polished conference room of Caldwell Biotech, the mahogany table reflecting the harbor's glint through floor-to-ceiling windows. The Henderson merger, a $47 million deal that had consumed months of his life, lay before him in a stack of legal documents. 12 board members, their suits as sharp as their expectations, dissected clauses with practiced precision. Ethan, usually the razor-sharp leader, felt his mind slipping. The image of Maya Johnson and Liam at the bus stop burned behind his eyes. The boy's gaze, a mirror of his own, unraveling the control he'd built his empire on. Mr. Caldwell, Henderson's lawyer, a wiry man named Grayson, cut through the fog. What is your position on the liability clause in Section 7? All eyes turned to Ethan, expectant. But the words on the page blurred into nonsense. He cleared his throat, stalling. He said, I need to review the subsections more thoroughly. His voice steady but hollow. Let's table this until tomorrow. A stunned silence followed. Grayson's eyebrows shot up. Ethan had never delayed a decision in 5 years. His reputation was built on dissecting contracts faster than most could read them. Bradley Morrison, the CFO, leaned forward, his tablet glowing with projections. We've been negotiating for months, Ethan. The terms are exactly as agreed. Ethan snapped his leather portfolio shut, the sound sharp in the quiet room. I don't make decisions when I'm not focused. You'll have my answer by morning. Without another word, he stood, straightened his tie, and walked out, leaving 12 shocked faces and a deal hanging in the balance. In the elevator, his reflection in the polished steel stared back, a composed CEO, But beneath the surface, fault lines spread. Sarah, his assistant, caught him in the lobby, her tablet buzzing with notifications. "Henderson's team is calling already." "What should I tell them?" Ethan waved her off. "Tell them I'm unavailable." Her eyes widened, but she nodded, scribbling notes as he strode to his Tesla. Boston's financial district pulsed around him, its glass towers a monument to ambition. But Ethan's thoughts were in Roxbury, where Maya's world thrived in ways his never had. The contrast gnawed at him. Her life, rich with community and purpose, against his sterile penthouse, where success was measured in solitude. He drove to his Back Bay residence, the Tesla's hum a faint echo of his racing pulse. With its exposed brick and minimalist furniture, the penthouse felt emptier than ever. Abstract art hung on the walls, chosen for its lack of emotional weight. But tonight, it mocked him. He poured a glass of aged Macallan, the amber liquid burning his throat, as he stood at the window, the Charles River glittering below. The engagement ring Maya left 5 years ago sat locked in a drawer, a relic of his failure. He'd pushed her away, choosing boardroom victories over her dreams. But the possibility of Liam being his son opened that logic. The timeline fit with devastating clarity. 5 years since her departure, a 4-year-old boy. The math wasn't just numbers. It was a life he'd missed. Ethan's laptop glowed on the granite kitchen island, the cursor blinking in an empty search bar. He could hire a private investigator and leverage his resources to uncover every detail of Maya's life since she'd left. But the thought felt wrong, an extension of the control that had driven her away. He'd once scheduled their dates like meetings, prioritizing market volatility over her hopes for a family. Invading her privacy now would only prove he hadn't changed. He closed the laptop, the whiskey untouched beside it. His mind churned, replaying their past, her laugh during Sunday morning coffee, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest as she spoke of teaching children. He'd deflected, citing quarterly projections, believing success meant invulnerability. Now, vulnerability was all he felt. The city lights twinkled, a tapestry of lives unfolding. Families in Roxbury's brownstones, parents reading bedtime stories, children dreaming of dinosaurs. Ethan had insulated himself from that chaos. But Liam's eyes had pierced that shield. Was he a father? The question was a seismic shift, threatening his identity as Boston's Unshakable CEO. His phone buzzed. Sarah's texts, increasingly urgent. "Henderson's threatening to walk. Bloomberg wants a reschedule. Please respond." Ethan turned the phone face down, his decision crystallizing. Tomorrow, he'd go to Washington Elementary, where Maya taught. Not to demand answers, but to seek them, respecting the life she'd built. The boardroom could wait. The truth couldn't. This choice, small but seismic, rippled outward. Bradley's latest text warned of shareholder unrest if the merger faltered. Today, Ethan's absence sparked whispers in the financial district about a CEO losing his edge. But as he stood in his silent penthouse, the stakes felt different. Success, once measured in stock prices, now hinged on a boy with his eyes and a woman who'd chosen to protect her son from him. Ethan didn't know what he'd say to Maya, or how Liam fit into his world, but for the first time, he was willing to step into the unknown, where control was an illusion and hope was the only currency that mattered. The morning sun cast long shadows across Roxbury's tree-lined streets as Ethan Caldwell parked his Tesla opposite Washington Elementary. The school's red brick facade, adorned with colorful murals of children reading, buzzed with the energy of morning drop-offs. In yoga pants and business suits, Parents ushered their kids through the gates, a world of scraped knees and lunchboxes Ethan had never inhabited. His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, as he watched the scene unfold. The rhythm of Roxbury, lively, communal, grounded in shared laughter and morning greetings, felt like a foreign language to a man who spoke only in boardroom directives. Yet, somewhere in that vibrant chaos was Maya Johnson, the woman who'd once been his home, and Liam, the boy who might be his son. Ethan's sleepless night had been a storm of questions. Liam's eyes, a mirror of his own, haunted him. Each glance through the bus window, a splinter in his carefully ordered life. He'd replayed his last months with Maya, her hopeful talks of family, his curt dismissals about complications. The guilt was right. The engagement ring was still locked in his penthouse drawer. But he wasn't here to demand or control. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. He needed to see them, to confirm the truth without shattering the life Maya had built. His phone buzzed. Sarah, his assistant, with another urgent message about the Henderson merger. He silenced it, the $47 million deal a distant hum against the roar of his need for answers. The school bell rang, sharp and clear, signaling the start of the day. Ethan stepped out of his car, his tailored suit out of place among the casual flow of parents. He crossed the street, heart pounding, and positioned himself near a maple tree, its leaves a blaze of autumn gold. He felt like an intruder, a CEO out of his element, yet the pull of those familiar eyes kept him rooted. Then he saw her, Maya, her auburn hair pulled into a neat ponytail, laughing as she guided Liam across the schoolyard. The boy skipped beside her, his superhero backpack bouncing, sneakers flashing with each step. Ethan's breath caught. Up close, Liam's features were undeniable. Maya's delicate nose, her gentle smile, but those dark, wide eyes, his eyes, carried a spark that stopped his heart. Liam clutched a small dinosaur figurine, waving it as he chattered. Maya knelt to adjust his jacket, her movements tender, protective. The sight stirred something raw in Ethan, a longing for the ordinary moments he'd never known, mornings like this, filled with small rituals and unspoken love. He watched as Liam pointed at a mural, his voice carrying faintly, "Mommy, that's a T-Rex." Maya's warm and familiar laugh echoed across the yard, a sound Ethan hadn't heard in 5 years. It was a life he'd been absent from, one Maya had crafted in Roxbury's embrace, where community potlucks and church choirs wove a safety net he'd never offered. Ethan's resolve wavered. What right did he have to step into this world? He'd chosen his company over her, dismissing her dreams with a coldness that still shamed him. Yet Liam's presence, a boy who might carry his blood, demanded he try. He stepped forward, then stopped, remembering Maya's strength and right to protect her son. He wouldn't barge in. He'd wait for her to notice him, to choose whether to let him in. The schoolyard began to empty, parents dispersing, children vanishing through the gates. Maya straightened, her gaze sweeping the street, and then it landed on him. Her eyes widened, the color draining from her face. She froze, one hand tightening on Liam's, the other rising to her throat, a gesture Ethan remembered from their most challenging conversations. Liam sensed the shift, his chatter pausing. He looked up at Maya, then followed her gaze to Ethan. "Mommy, who's that?" he asked, his voice curious but cautious, clutching his dinosaur tighter. Maya's lips parted, but no words came. Ethan felt the weight of her stare, 5 years of silence crashing between them like a wave. He stepped closer, deliberate, his hands raised slightly to show he meant no harm. "Maya," he said, his voice rough, unsteady. "I saw you yesterday at the bus stop." Her eyes flickered with recognition, then hardened. "I know," she said softly, Her tone edged with something sharp. Fear, anger. He couldn't tell. I saw you too. The air crackled with unspoken history. Liam tilted his head, studying Ethan with a child's unfiltered curiosity. Do you like dinosaurs? He asked suddenly, holding up his figurine. Ethan's throat tightened, caught off guard by the boy's directness. I do, he managed, his eyes locked on Liam's, seeing himself in their depths. Triceratops are my favorite. Liam's brow furrowed, assessing. Those are cool. They have 3 horns. Maya's hand trembled on Liam's shoulder, her gaze never leaving Ethan's. The moment stretched, fragile and heavy, as the schoolyard fell silent around them. Ethan knew he couldn't ask the question burning in his chest. Not here, not in front of Liam. But the truth was undeniable now, written in the boy's features, in the timeline that aligned too perfectly. Maya's life, vibrant and whole without him, was a testament to her strength. But it also held a piece of his own, a son he'd never known. As Liam tugged Maya toward the school gates, Ethan stood rooted, his world shifting. He'd come for answers, but found a truth too big for his controlled life to contain. Tomorrow, he'd find a way to talk to Maya, to face the past and whatever future they might share. For now, he watched them disappear into the school, Liam's backpack bouncing, Maya's posture resolute, and felt the first stirrings of a hope he hadn't dared to think in years. The autumn air was crisp outside Washington Elementary, the schoolyard now quiet as the last children disappeared through the gates. Ethan Caldwell stood beneath a maple tree, its leaves a fiery cascade, his heart hammering as Maya Johnson faced him across the sidewalk. Liam, clutching his dinosaur figurine, glanced between them, his curious eyes sensing the tension. Maya's hand rested protectively on his shoulder, her posture rigid, her gaze locked on Ethan with a mix of shock and defiance. The moment stretched, heavy with 5 years of unspoken hurt, the hum of Roxbury's morning fading into a distant murmur. Ethan's tailored suit felt like armor, but it couldn't shield him from the weight of her stare or the truth written in Liam's features. His son, a living echo of the life he'd lost. Maya, Ethan said again, his voice rougher than he intended. We need to talk. Her hand tightened on Liam's shoulder, and she stepped back, her fingers brushing her throat in a familiar gesture of unease. Not here, she said, her tone sharp but low, mindful of the boy. Not in front of him. Liam looked up, his brow furrowing. Mommy, is he a teacher? Maya's lips parted, a flicker of pain crossing her face before she knelt to his level. No, sweetheart. He's someone I used to know. Go play by the mural for a minute, okay? Stay where I can see you. Liam hesitated, glancing at Ethan with a child's wary curiosity, then nodded and skipped toward the T-Rex mural, still clutching his toy. Maya straightened, her eyes blazing as she faced Ethan. You don't get to show up like this, Ethan. Not after everything. Her voice was a controlled storm, each word precise, cutting. He raised his hands, palms open, a plea for patience. I'm not here to disrupt your life. I saw you yesterday at the bus stop. I saw him. His gaze flicked to Liam, tracing the mural's lines with his finger. Is he mine? The question hung in the air, raw and heavy, a bridge between their past and this fragile moment. Maya's breath caught, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She lifted her chin, defiance masking the pain beneath. You don't get to ask that after 5 years of silence. Ethan's chest constricted, guilt mingling with desperation. I didn't know, Maya. If I'd known... She cut him off, her voice rising. What, Ethan? That I was pregnant when you said family was a complication? That I heard you talk about terminating accidental pregnancies like they were business risks? Her words were knives, each one landing with devastating accuracy. Ethan flinched, memories flooding back. Their last year together, his late nights at the office, her quiet hopes for a future he'd dismissed. "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "I chose the company over you, over us. I've regretted it every day since you left." Maya's laugh was bitter, her eyes searching his for deceit. "Regret doesn't change the past. I left to protect him, to give him a life free from rejection. I raised him alone, Ethan, in a community that held us up when you weren't there. Roxbury gave us love, safety, and a home. What could you have offered? A slot in your calendar between board meetings?" Her words stung, but beneath the anger, Ethan heard the pain she'd carried for 5 years. He took a step closer, careful not to crowd her. "I would have tried," he said quietly. "I would have tried to be better. For you. For him." She studied him, her gaze piercing, as if weighing his sincerity against a lifetime of disappointment. Liam's laughter drifted from the mural, a reminder of the stakes. "His name is Liam," she said finally, her voice softening but deliberate. "He's 4. He loves dinosaurs, strawberry ice cream, and stories about knights. And yes, he's yours." The confirmation hit Ethan like a physical blow, his knees nearly buckling. He reached for the school's iron fence, steadying himself as the world tilted. A son. Liam. A piece of himself walking through the world, growing without him, shaped by Maya's strength and love. Ethan said, "I want to know him," the words spilling out before he could stop them. "I want to be part of his life." Maya's eyes narrowed, protective instinct flaring. "It's not that simple. You can't just waltz in and play father when it suits you. He's a child, not a project you can manage." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "I know. I'm not asking for control. I'm asking for a chance, one chance, on your terms." Maya's gaze flicked to Liam, who mimicked a T-Rex's roar. She sighed, the fight draining from her shoulders. "One chance," she said, her voice firm. "Franklin Park, Saturday at 2 o'clock. I'll be there the whole time. And if you hurt him, if you hurt us, you're gone. Forever." Ethan nodded, his throat tight with gratitude and fear. "I won't let you down." Maya's eyes held his, a storm of emotions, hope, doubt, resolve, swirling within. "Don't make me regret this," she said, calling Liam. The boy bounded back, his sneakers flashing, and took her hand, oblivious to the seismic shift that had just occurred. As they walked toward the school, Maya's posture was a shield, Liam's chatter a bright counterpoint to the tension. Ethan watched them go, the weight of her words settling into his chest. One chance. It was more than he deserved, less than he wanted, but it was a start. Saturday would be his first step into a world he'd never known, a world of dinosaurs, trust, and a family he might still claim. Franklin Park buzzed with the vibrant pulse of a Boston October afternoon, its paths alive with joggers weaving through families and dogs chasing frisbees. Ethan Caldwell sat on a wooden bench near the playground, his palms damp despite the cool air, a dinosaur encyclopedia resting beside him. He'd spent hours at a local bookstore selecting it, ensuring it was engaging yet simple enough for a young child. His navy sweater and dark jeans, chosen to seem approachable, felt like a costume compared to his usual tailored suits. The weight of Maya Johnson's warning, "One chance, Ethan. Don't make me regret this," pressed against his chest as he scanned the park's entrance, every approaching figure a potential shift in his carefully ordered world. At 2 o'clock p.m., Maya appeared, her cream-colored coat catching the sunlight, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders. Liam walked beside her, his superhero backpack bouncing, his small hand gripping hers tightly. Ethan's heart lurched at the sight of the boy, his son, whose eyes mirrored his own, a connection that thrilled and terrified him. Maya's posture was guarded, her gaze sweeping the park as if mapping escape routes. Liam's steps slowed as they neared, his expression shifting from curiosity to caution, his dinosaur figurine clutched like a talisman. Ethan stood, offering a tentative smile. "Hi, Liam," he said, his voice softer than he'd planned. "It's nice to see you." Liam pressed closer to Maya, his eyes narrowing. "Why weren't you here before?" he asked, his voice small but direct, cutting through the park's cheerful noise. Ethan froze, and the question reminded him of his missed years. Maya knelt, her hand gentle on Liam's shoulder. "Remember what we talked about, sweetheart? Ethan was finding his way, but he's here now because he wants to know you." Liam's brow furrowed, processing her words. "Like Tommy's dad?" he asked, referencing a friend whose father took him fishing. Maya nodded, her smile strained but encouraging. "Something like that." Ethan swallowed, crouching to Liam's level, careful not to crowd him. "I brought you something," he said, holding out the dinosaur encyclopedia. "Your mom said you love dinosaurs." Liam's eyes widened, curiosity battling his wariness. He glanced at Maya, who gave a slight nod, and he took the book, flipping through its colorful pages. "This has a Carnotaurus," he said, his voice warming slightly. "They're super rare." Ethan seized the opening. "I like Triceratops myself. Those 3 horns are pretty cool." Liam tilted his head, assessing. "They're okay, but the Resinosaurus is better. They've got huge claws, but they eat plants, not meat." Maya watched from a nearby bench, close enough to intervene, but giving them space. Ethan felt her scrutiny, a test of his sincerity. He sat beside Liam on the grass, letting the boy lead the conversation. "Do you know why I wasn't around before?" Ethan asked gently, prompted by Liam's earlier question. The boy shook his head, his fingers tracing a T-Rex illustration. "Mommy said you were busy. Were you lost?" The innocence of the question pierced Ethan, a reminder of the void he'd left. "Not lost," he said, choosing his words carefully. "I was working a lot, but I made a mistake not being here. I want to be here now, if that's okay with you." Liam's gaze was solemn, a child's intuition weighing Ethan's words. "Will you stay this time?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's throat tightened, the weight of the promise overwhelming. "I want to," he said, glancing at Maya for permission. Her expression softened, a flicker of trust in her eyes. "If your mom says it's okay, I'll return as much as you want." Liam nodded slowly, then held up the book. "Can you read about the velociraptor? They're super fast." Ethan opened the page, his voice steady as he read, marveling at Liam's curiosity, the way his small hands pointed to illustrations with uncontained excitement. They moved to the playground, and Liam led Ethan to the swings. "Push me," he called, his hesitation easing as he giggled with each gentle shove. Ethan caught Maya's eye, her posture relaxing as she watched Liam's joy. The park's vibrancy, children's laughter, the distant rhythm of a street musician's drum mirrored Roxbury's communal heartbeat, a world Maya had chosen for its warmth. Ethan felt like an outsider still, but Liam's laughter was an invitation, a bridge to a life he'd never known. "Higher!" Liam called, and Ethan obliged, careful not to push too hard, mindful of Maya's watchful gaze. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows across the playground, Liam hopped off the swing, clutching his book. "Can you come to the park again?" he asked, his tone hopeful but tinged with doubt. Ethan knelt, meeting his eyes. "I'd love to, buddy. Next time, we can learn about a stegosaurus." Liam's crooked smile, like his own, sparked a warmth Ethan hadn't felt in years. Maya approached, her expression unreadable, but softer. "Time to go, Liam," she said, taking his hand. To Ethan, she added quietly, "You did okay today. We'll talk about what's next." Ethan nodded, gratitude and resolve settling in his chest. As they walked away, Liam's backpack bouncing, Ethan stood rooted, the dinosaur book a small victory. Liam's question, "Will you stay this time?" A challenge he was determined to meet. Ethan Caldwell sat at the head of Caldwell Biotech's mahogany conference table, the Boston Harbor glinting through the windows, a silent witness to the tension in the room. The Henderson merger, a $47 million deal teetering on the edge, dominated the discussion. Board members, their faces etched with impatience, pressed for a decision. But Ethan's mind was elsewhere. Liam's crooked smile from their Franklin Park meeting, the weight of his question, "Will you stay this time?" lingered, drowning out talk of liability clauses. His assistant, Sarah, stood at the door, her tablet buzzing with updates. "Mr. Caldwell," she interrupted, her voice urgent. "A call from Washington Elementary. It's about Liam Blake." The room fell silent, 12 pairs of eyes turning to Ethan. "What is it?" he asked, his pulse spiking. Sarah hesitated, glancing at the board. "The nurse says Liam's had a respiratory episode. He's in the health office, struggling to breathe." "Maya's not answering her phone. You're listed as an emergency contact." The words hit like a thunderbolt. Ethan stood, his chair scraping the floor. "Reschedule everything," he said, already moving toward the door. Bradley Morrison, the CFO, blinked in disbelief. "Ethan, the merger. Henderson's deadline is tomorrow." Ethan didn't break stride. "My son needs me," he said, the words raw, final, as he left a stunned boardroom behind. The drive to Roxbury was a blur, Ethan's Tesla weaving through Boston's afternoon traffic, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Liam, his small frame gasping for air, alone, scared. The nurse had said it wasn't life-threatening, but what did that mean for a boy who loved dinosaurs and trusted Ethan to stay? He broke every speed limit, the financial district's towers fading as Roxbury's vibrant streets, lined with murals and bustling with community life, came into view. Washington Elementary's health office smelled of antiseptic and worry. Ethan burst through the door, finding Liam on a small cot, an inhaler in his hands, his breathing shallow but steady. The boy's eyes, like his own, lit up despite his pallor. "Ethan," he said, voice weak, "you came." "Hey, buddy," Ethan said softly, kneeling beside the cot, his suit jacket discarded on a chair. "How are you feeling?" Liam held up the inhaler like a prize. "Nurse Anderson gave me this. It's helping, but I couldn't breathe well before." Ethan's chest tightened, a mix of relief and fear. "You're doing great now," he said, forcing calm. Nurse Anderson, a kind woman with a clipboard, approached. "Mild asthma attack, likely triggered by playground dust. He'll be fine, but he needs observation for a few hours." Ethan nodded, settling beside Liam. "I'll stay." The nurse raised an eyebrow. "It could be a while." "You sure?" Ethan glanced at Liam, who was watching him with hopeful eyes. "I'm sure." Ethan sat by the cot for 3 hours, reading from the dinosaur encyclopedia they'd shared at the park. Liam pointed out facts, and his voice grew stronger. "Did you know velociraptors had feathers?" he asked, a spark of excitement cutting through his fatigue. Ethan smiled, turning pages. "I didn't. You're teaching me a lot, buddy." His phone buzzed incessantly. Sarah's texts about the merger, board members demanding updates. But he ignored it, focused on Liam's steady breaths. With its colorful posters and faint hum of Roxbury's community outside, the office felt more real than any boardroom. Maya arrived at 5:30, her coat thrown over a teacher's blouse, her face flushed from running. She dropped to her knees beside Liam, smoothing his hair. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice trembling. "My phone was on silent in class." Ethan met her eyes, seeing her fear mirror his own. "He's okay," he said gently. "We're okay." Maya's gaze shifted to him, surprise flickering as she noticed the discarded jacket, the open book, the way Liam leaned into him. "You stayed," she said, almost to herself. Liam piped up. "Ethan read about dinosaurs the whole time, Mommy, even when the nurse said it'd take hours." Maya's eyes softened, a crack in her guarded wall. "Thank you," she whispered, then added, "and thank you for putting him on the emergency contact list." Ethan shook his head. "Thank you for trusting me with that." So soon after their park meeting, the gesture felt like a lifeline, a sign that Maya saw his change. They left together, Maya and Liam in her Honda, Ethan following in his Tesla. At a red light, he watched Liam's small hands gesture animatedly through the rear window, recounting his day. At his penthouse, Ethan's phone showed 32 missed calls, and Bradley's text warned of shareholder unrest. Mergers at risk. Boards questioning your focus. For the first time, Ethan didn't care. He'd chosen Liam over a deal, and the victory felt truer than any stock spike. Maya's call came later, her voice soft. "Liam's asleep. The doctor says he'll be fine with the inhaler." Ethan exhaled, relief flooding him. "Good. How about you?" A pause, then, "I was scared, Ethan. But when I saw you there, reading to him, it meant something." Ethan closed his eyes, the weight of her trust grounding him. "I want to be there, Maya. For him. For both of you." Another pause, longer. "We'll see," she said, but her tone held a flicker of hope. As Ethan hung up, Liam's question echoed. "Will you stay this time?" Today, he'd proven he could. The challenge was proving it again tomorrow. Mama's Kitchen, a Roxbury diner nestled between a barbershop and a community mural, hummed with the warmth of shared meals. Its checkered floors and vinyl booths were alive with the chatter of families, the clink of silverware mingling with laughter from a nearby birthday party. Ethan Caldwell slid into a corner booth, the neon glow of a fish tank casting flickers across his navy sweater. Across from him, Maya Johnson settled Liam into a booster seat, her green sweater soft against the diner's vibrant chaos. The air smelled of fried chicken and sweet potato fries, a far cry from the sterile boardrooms Ethan knew. His phone, silenced after another flurry of texts from Sarah about the Henderson merger, sat face down on the table. Tonight, he was here for Liam and Maya, if she'd let him. Liam bounced slightly, clutching a crayon as he colored a placemat featuring sea creatures. "Look, Ethan," he said, holding up a half-finished octopus. "It's got 8 arms, like a dinosaur with extra legs." Ethan smiled, his heart swelling at the boy's enthusiasm. "That's a great octopus, buddy. Maybe it's friends with a plesiosaur." Liam's eyes widened, his earlier hesitation at the park giving way to a tentative trust. Maya watched, her expression a mix of caution and curiosity, as if testing the depth of Ethan's commitment after his presence during Liam's asthma scare. "I ordered Liam's favorite," Maya said, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "Dinosaur nuggets and sweet potato fries. Hope that's okay." Ethan nodded, his gaze lingering on her familiar gesture. "It's perfect." The words carried more weight than the menu. a quiet acknowledgement of the moment they were building. He leaned forward, eager to know her world. "Tell me about teaching," he said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Maya's face lit up, her voice warm with passion. "Second graders are magic. They're curious, ask big questions, like why the sky's blue or how plants breathe. I love showing them the world's a place to explore, not just study." Liam looked up from his coloring. "Mommy teaches us about fossils sometimes." I told her about the Rhizinosaurus's claws. Maya laughed, a sound that stirred memories of their past. "You've taught me more paleontology than my college textbooks, Liam." Ethan marveled at their ease, the way Maya nurtured Liam's curiosity with a patience he'd once failed to offer. The diner's energy, neighbors greeting each other, a gospel tune humming from the jukebox, wove a backdrop of community, Roxbury's heartbeat pulsing around them. It was a world Ethan felt drawn to, yet still stood outside, an outsider learning its rhythm. Their food arrived, and Liam arranged his dinosaur nuggets into an elaborate battle scene, narrating with gusto. "The T-Rex will fight the Triceratops, but the Triceratops has horns, so it's tricky." Ethan joined in, moving a nugget to flank another. "What if the Velociraptors team up? Could they outsmart the T-Rex?" Liam's jaw dropped, delighted by the idea. "Yes! They're super fast, like a pack." Maya watched, her smile softening as Ethan engaged, his usual reserve melting into genuine play. "You're good at this," she said quietly, when Liam dashed to the fish tank to inspect a clownfish. "Better than I expected." Ethan set down his fork, meeting her eyes. "I'm trying, Maya. I spent years thinking success meant having all the answers, but I want to ask the right questions with him." Her gaze held his, searching for the man who'd once scheduled her into his life like a meeting. She said, "That's new for you," her tone cautious but open. The Ethan I knew would have bought Liam a museum's worth of dinosaur toys, but this, playing, listening, is different. Ethan nodded, the weight of her words settling in. "Liam's teaching me what matters. So are you." Liam returned, sliding into the booth beside Ethan, a slight but seismic shift. The boy's choice to sit closer felt like trust, fragile but growing. "Can Ethan come to movie night, Mommy?" Liam asked, his eyes bright. "We're watching the one with the singing dinosaurs." Maya hesitated, her fingers tightening on her glass. Co-parenting was new and uncharted, a balance of protecting Liam and testing Ethan's resolve. "If he wants to," she said finally, her voice soft but deliberate. Ethan's heart leapt. "I'd love to," he said, looking at Liam. "Do I need to learn any dinosaur songs?" Liam giggled. "You'll see." As they shared a towering ice cream sundae, Liam insisted they all use the same spoon, and Ethan felt the awkwardness of their early encounters fade. The diner's warmth, laughter, and music wrapped them in a moment that felt like family. Outside, Roxbury's streetlights glowed, casting a soft light on their walk to the cars. Liam skipped between them, humming a tune from his favorite movie. "Can Ethan read my bedtime story tomorrow?" he asked, tugging Maya's hand. Ethan glanced at her, hope and caution warring in his chest. Maya studied them both, then nodded. "If he's free," she said, a small smile breaking through. "But you picked the book, Liam." Driving back to his penthouse, Ethan's phone buzzed with urgent messages. Bradley, warning of shareholder unrest, the merger's fate uncertain. But as he pictured Liam's nugget battles and Maya's tentative trust, Ethan knew he'd made the right choice. The boardroom could wait. This, his son's laughter, Maya's cautious openness, was worth everything. He'd step deeper into their world tomorrow, one story at a time. Maya Johnson's Roxbury apartment was a warm contrast to Ethan Caldwell's sterile penthouse. its walls adorned with Liam's crayon drawings and shelves overflowing with well-loved books. The scent of vanilla candles mingled with the faint aroma of baked macaroni from dinner, creating a cocoon of lived-in comfort. Ethan sat on a cozy couch, its mismatched pillows a testament to countless movie nights, as Liam emerged from his bedroom in dinosaur pajamas, clutching 3 books. "We're reading all of them," Liam announced, his eyes bright with authority. "The whale one, the space one, then the dragon scared of fire." Ethan smiled, settling beside him, the weight of the moment sinking in. This was his son, trusting him with the sacred ritual of bedtime. Maya curled into an armchair across the room, a soft throw over her legs, her auburn hair catching the lamplight. Her gaze was watchful, but softer than at Franklin Park, as if Ethan's presence during Liam's asthma scare had chipped away at her defenses. "Fair warning," she said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Liam's particular about voices. The whale's wise and deep, the dragon's brave but nervous. Liam nodded, snuggling against Ethan's side, with a casual trust that made his heart ache. "You gotta make the whale sound old," Liam instructed, handing over the first book. Ethan opened it, his voice rumbling low. The blue whale, the largest creature on Earth, sings songs traveling miles across the ocean. Liam's laughter bubbled up, more rumbly. Ethan adjusted, deepening his tone, and Liam settled back, satisfied, his small body warm against Ethan's. As he read about a young whale finding its voice, Ethan felt a shift, an intimacy rawer than any boardroom triumph. This wasn't control or calculation. It was connection, fragile and profound. Maya watched, her fingers tracing the edge of her throw, her expression a mix of hope and caution. The apartment's warmth, filled with the hum of Roxbury's Evening, distant gospel music from a neighbor's radio, the chatter of kids playing outside, wrapped them in a sense of belonging Ethan had never known. Halfway through the space book, Liam's eyes fluttered, his breathing slowing. "Keep reading," he mumbled, resting his head on Ethan's shoulder. "I'm picturing the stars." Ethan's throat tightened, catching Maya's gaze across the room. Her eyes shimmered, not with sadness, but with something more profound, recognition, perhaps, of the man Ethan was becoming. By the dragon story, Liam was asleep, his hand fisted in Ethan's sweater, but Ethan continued in a whisper, unable to break the spell. The dragon learned his fire wasn't scary. It was beautiful, a gift to share. Maya wiped her eyes, her voice soft. That's his favorite part. Carefully, Ethan lifted Liam, his small frame surprisingly light, and followed Maya to his bedroom. Glow-in-the-dark stars dotted the ceiling, dinosaur posters lining the walls. They tucked him in, Liam stirring to murmur, "Night, Mommy. Night, Ethan." The casual endearment hit Ethan like a wave, making the title of father feel real. Maya gathered the books in the living room, but Ethan caught her hand, his touch gentle. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with letting me be part of this. Maya looked at their joined hands, her fingers warm in his. "You're his father," she said. "You have a right to these moments. But it's not just about him." Ethan's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Maya's gaze met his, vulnerable yet steady. "For months after Liam was born, I told myself I protected him by keeping you away. But I was also protecting myself from hoping you'd change and believing you could want us." Her voice wavered, revealing the weight of years alone. "I sang in the church choir, leaned on neighbors, and taught my kids to dream big. But I carried the fear you'd reject him like you rejected our future." Ethan's chest ached, memories of their past flooding back. Her talks of family, his dismissals about timing. "I was wrong," he said. I thought success meant control, but I lost what mattered most. I'm different now, Maya. Because of you. Because of him. The air crackled, the space between them shrinking. Ethan leaned closer, his hand brushing her cheek, the gold flecks in her eyes, a map to a life he'd almost lost. What if we could try again? He whispered. Maya's breath hitched, fear and longing warring in her gaze. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely audible. So am I, Ethan said, his thumb tracing her cheek. But I'm more afraid of missing this. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening with 5 years of regret and unspoken love. Maya's hand fisted in his sweater, mirroring Liam's gesture, a bridge between past and possibility. When they parted, breathless, Maya rested her forehead against his. She whispered one day at a time, her voice a promise and a boundary. Ethan nodded, his heart racing with hope. One day at a time. Outside, Roxbury glittered, its community a chorus of resilience. However, Ethan had found something more precious in this small apartment, a family taking shape, one story, one kiss, one trust at a time. His phone buzzed, ignored, as he focused on Maya's eyes, the future no longer a merger to negotiate, but a life to build together. At 2:47 a.m., Ethan Caldwell's phone shattered the silence of his Back Bay penthouse. Maya Johnson's name glowing on the screen. Her voice, fractured by sobs, sliced through his groggy haze. Ethan, I need you. Liam can't breathe. We're at Mass General. Panic seized him, his heart pounding as he fumbled into his clothes, one hand clutching the phone. I'm coming, he said, already halfway to the door. I'm coming right now. The drive to Massachusetts General Hospital was a blur of red lights and desperate prayers, the Boston skyline a dark blur against his fear. Liam, struggling for air, and Maya, alone in her terror. Ethan couldn't lose them, not when he was learning what family meant. He found Maya in the pediatric waiting room, her coat thrown over pajamas, her auburn hair tangled, her hands trembling around an untouched coffee cup. Her eyes, red-rimmed and wide with fear, met his, and she collapsed into his arms, her body shaking. It's worse than before, she whispered into his chest. He woke up gasping, and the inhaler didn't work. I called 911, and they rushed him back. Ethan held her tightly, his fear rising, but he anchored himself for her sake. Where is he now? He asked, his voice steadier than he felt. Emergency room, she said, pulling back, her gaze desperate. They're stabilizing him, but his oxygen was so low when we got here. Ethan guided her to a chair, their hands clasped under the harsh fluorescent lights. He's strong, Maya, he said, framing her face with his hands. He's our son, a fighter. The words, our son, slipped out naturally, and something shifted in Maya's eyes, her fear tempered by his certainty. They sat, surrounded by other families in the waiting room, each caught in their quiet hell of loving someone vulnerable. The hum of Roxbury's community felt distant here, replaced by the sterile beep of monitors and the shuffle of nurses. Ethan's mind flashed to Liam's laughter at Mama's kitchen, his small hand fisted in Ethan's sweater during bedtime stories. I keep thinking about the years I missed, he said, voice rough. Bedtime stories, playground days. What if... Don't, Maya interrupted, her hand tightening on his. You can't measure love in missed years. You're here now, Ethan. When I needed you, you came. Her words, raw with gratitude, cut through his guilt. She leaned against him, her warmth a lifeline in the cold room. I called you first, she added softly. Not my sister, not my neighbor. You, because you've become the person I trust most." Ethan's chest ached, the weight of her trust both humbling and terrifying. He'd spent years building walls, but in this moment, they crumbled, leaving only the man who wanted to be enough for his family. Dr. Williams, a calm woman in scrubs, appeared in the doorway, her expression unreadable. She said, "Mr. Caldwell, Ms. Johnson," glancing at her chart, "Liam's stable." Relief flooded Ethan, his knees nearly buckling as Maya's grip tightened. His breathing has improved with nebulizer treatments, but this attack was severe. "We'll need to adjust his asthma plan." Maya stood, her voice urgent. "Can we see him?" Dr. Williams nodded. "He's drowsy from the medication and connected to monitors, but you can go in." Nothing prepared Ethan for the sight of Liam in the hospital bed, his small frame dwarfed by white sheets, oxygen tubes in his nose, monitors beeping steadily. Yet his eyes, bright despite his pallor, lit up. "Daddy," he whispered, voice hoarse. "You came?" Ethan moved to the bedside, careful not to disturb the equipment, and took Liam's hand. "Of course I came, buddy. I'll always come when you need me." Liam's fingers, small but strong, wrapped around his. "I was scared," he admitted. "It felt like drowning, but in air." Ethan's throat tightened, his heart breaking at the image. "You were so brave," he said, smoothing Liam's hair. "You're breathing better now." Liam nodded, holding up his dinosaur figurine. "The doctor says I need new medicine, and maybe no school tomorrow." Maya, on the other side of the bed, smiled faintly. "We'll have a movie day instead." "Can Daddy stay too?" Liam asked, looking between them, his tired eyes hopeful. Ethan glanced at Maya, who nodded without hesitation. "If he wants to," she said softly. "I want to," Ethan replied, his voice firm. "For movie days, school pickups, and anything you need." Something passed between him and Maya, an unspoken promise, forged in this sterile room where their son's steady breaths were the only currency that mattered. Liam's eyes fluttered closed, exhaustion and medication pulling him under. "I love you, Daddy," he murmured, a soft huff escaping as he drifted off. The words, so freely given, hit Ethan like a tidal wave, a love unearned yet absolute. In the quiet, with only the monitor's steady rhythm, Ethan and Maya sat on either side of Liam's bed, each holding a small hand. "This is what matters," Ethan said, his voice low, eyes on Liam's peaceful face. "Not mergers or boardrooms. This. Us." Maya looked at him across the bed, seeing a father reshaped by love, not the CEO she'd once known. "When this happened," she said, her voice soft, "you were the first person I thought of." "That's new, Ethan." He covered her hand with his, their fingers intertwining over the hospital blanket. "I won't let you down," he said. "Not you, not him, ever again." Outside, Boston stirred. But in room 314, a family was solidifying, tested by fear, and found stronger than any challenge Ethan had faced in his empire. 6 months after Liam's hospital scare, Franklin Park glowed with October's fiery hues, its paths alive with families and the crisp scent of fallen leaves. Ethan Caldwell, his suit jacket discarded on a bench, wrestled with a tangled kite, its colorful fabric defiant in the breeze. Liam stood beside him, hands on hips, studying the mess with the intensity of an engineer. "Daddy, the tail's too heavy," he declared, his voice carrying the confidence of countless YouTube kite tutorials. Maya Johnson approached from their picnic blanket, her sundress catching the sunlight, a teasing smile on her lips. "Need help, boys?" Ethan grinned, mock dignity in his tone. "We've got it under control." He promptly dropped the string, earning a giggle from Liam. The past 6 months had reshaped Ethan's world. Bedtime stories, movie nights, and school pickups had become sacred, and each moment with Liam and Maya was a lesson in love's quiet power. His boardroom, once his kingdom, felt distant. Today, at Caldwell Biotech, he'd faced a storm. Shareholders furious over his rejection of the $47 million Henderson merger. Board members whispering about his lost edge. Bradley Morrison, the CFO, had warned of a 15% growth drop if Ethan continued prioritizing family-friendly policies. "The shareholders expect profit," Bradley had said, his tablet glowing with grim projections. Ethan countered, "They didn't hire me to sacrifice my family." The room had fallen silent, his dinosaur-themed coffee mug, a gift from Liam, absurdly defiant on the mahogany table. Now, in the park, Ethan's focus was on Liam's laughter, not stock prices. Maya settled on the grass, unconcerned for her dress, her auburn hair glinting. Liam said Daddy's great at pancakes, counting on his fingers, story voices, and piggyback rides. Maya met Ethan's eyes, adding softly, "Don't forget the piggyback rides." The look between them held months of small miracles. Shared coffee in Maya's Roxbury apartment, emergency inhaler runs, Liam's trust growing with each daddy. Co-parenting had been a careful dance, Maya setting boundaries, Ethan respecting them, their rhythm syncing with Roxbury's communal heartbeat, neighbors waving, gospel music drifting from open windows. Liam grabbed the kite, undeterred. "Let's ask that man," he said, pointing to an elderly figure whose red kite soared above the trees. Before Ethan or Maya could respond, Liam bounded over, his confidence infectious. "Excuse me, sir," he said politely. "My daddy's smart about business, but needs kite help. Can you show us?" The man, Harold Peterson, a retired physics teacher, smiled warmly. "It's about the wind," he said, adjusting Ethan's grip on the string. "Don't fight it. Work with it. Let go a little to gain control." Ethan nodded, the metaphor sinking in. For years, he'd gripped life tightly, controlling every variable. Liam's curiosity and Maya's trust taught him to loosen his hold. With Harold's guidance, the kite caught the breeze, soaring upward. Liam cheered, jumping joyfully, while Maya clapped, her laughter bright. "You did it, Daddy!" Liam exclaimed, wrapping his arms around Ethan's waist. Ethan ruffled his hair, warmth spreading through him. "We did it, buddy. We're a team." As Harold waved goodbye, Ethan's heart pounded with nervous resolve. He turned to Maya and Liam, his hand finding the velvet box in his pocket, which had been carried for weeks, waiting for this moment. He said, "I have something to say," his voice steady despite the stakes. He dropped to one knee, the kite still dancing above. "Maya," he began, opening the box to reveal a simple platinum ring, its diamond catching the sun. "I thought success was control, mergers, profits, plans. But you and Liam showed me it's messier, better. It's hospital nights, dinosaur pancakes, and kites that won't fly right. I've resigned as CEO to take a consultancy role, to be here, not in boardrooms." Maya's eyes widened, tears brimming. "I want to show up every day, for every moment, big and small. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your family?" Liam's jaw dropped, sensing the shift. "Does this mean we're a real family?" he asked, bouncing. Maya laughed through her tears, her voice breaking. "Yes, Ethan, yes." Liam launched into them, creating a tangle of arms and joy. Ethan said, "We're already a family," slipping the ring onto Maya's finger. "But this makes it official." The kite soared, crooked but beautiful, symbolizing their imperfect, soaring love. Back at the picnic, Liam chattered about dinosaur-shaped wedding cakes, while Ethan ignored his buzzing phone. Bradley's texts about shareholder backlash were irrelevant. In Roxbury's embrace, with Maya's hand in his and Liam's laughter ringing, Ethan had redefined success, choosing love over empire, a choice that felt like coming home. The Roxbury Community Center pulsed with life, its hall decked in vibrant streamers and balloons for Ethan Caldwell and Maya Johnson's engagement celebration. Tables groaned under platters of fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread, the air rich with the sense of home-cooked love. Gospel music from First Baptist's choir swelled, neighbors swaying to the rhythm, their laughter mingling with children's chatter. Ethan stood near a mural of Boston's history, his arm around Maya, her platinum ring glinting under the lights. Liam darted between guests, his dinosaur backpack bouncing, proudly showing off a Triceratops figurine to anyone listening. The community that had cradled Maya through years of single motherhood now embraced their new family, a testament to Roxbury's unbreakable spirit. Ethan's journey from boardroom titan to devoted father felt complete here, surrounded by Maya's neighbors, Mrs. Carter with her warm hugs, and Pastor Evans offering blessings. His resignation as CEO of Caldwell Biotech, announced days after the proposal, had sent shockwaves through the financial district. Bradley Morrison's final text warned of shareholder lawsuits, but Ethan's consultancy role allowed him to prioritize Liam's school plays and Maya's quiet evenings. The boardroom's sterile hum was a faint memory against the vibrancy of this moment. Liam's giggles, Maya's hand in his, the community's joy wrapping them like a quilt. Ethan had traded empire for family, and the choice felt like freedom. Maya leaned into him, her auburn hair brushing his shoulder, her smile radiant but grounded. "This is overwhelming," she said, nodding toward the crowd. "Roxbury doesn't do small celebrations." Ethan chuckled, his eyes on Liam, who was explaining dinosaur facts to a group of kids. "I'm learning that. It's perfect." Their co-parenting had solidified over months. Shared school pickups, asthma check-ins, late-night talks about Liam's dreams. Maya's trust, once fragile, was now a cornerstone, built on Ethan's presence through hospital scares and bedtime stories. She'd opened her world to him, and he'd stepped in, learning the rhythm of Roxbury's potlucks and church suppers. Liam bounded over, clutching a paper plate piled with cookies. "Daddy, can we fly the kite after this?" he asked, his eyes bright with the same hope that had sparked Ethan's transformation. Their crooked kite, symbolizing their imperfect journey, sat in Maya's car, ready for another park adventure. "Buddy," Ethan said, ruffling his hair, "we'll get it higher this time." Liam grinned, then tugged Maya's hand. "Mommy, you gotta dance with us." Maya laughed, letting him pull her toward the dance floor, where kids and elders swayed to a gospel beat. Ethan followed, his usual reserve melting in the communal joy, his hand finding Maya's as they moved with Liam between them. The celebration was a tapestry of moments. Pastor Evans toasting their future, Mrs. Carter sharing stories of Maya's early days as a single mother, Liam leading a chant for dinosaur cake. Ethan felt the weight of his past mistakes, years of prioritizing mergers over Maya's dreams, fade against the reality of this family. He'd once measured success in stock prices, but now it was Liam's laughter, Maya's trust, the warmth of a community that had welcomed him despite his outsider roots. His phone, silent for once, held no urgent messages. The boardroom's demands were irrelevant in this hall, where love was the currency. As the evening wound down, Ethan, Maya, and Liam stepped outside, the night air cool against their skin. The community center's lights spilled onto the street, where their kite waited. Ethan held it up, its fabric still crooked but vibrant. "One last flight?" he asked, meeting Maya's eyes. She nodded, her smile a promise. Liam clapped, bouncing with excitement. Together, they launched the kite, its tail catching the breeze, soaring against the starry sky. It danced, imperfect but free, a mirror of their family, built from broken pieces, now whole in its flaws. The narrator's voice broke through, reflective and warm. Sometimes, the most beautiful stories aren't about perfection, but finding love in the mess. If you were Maya, would you have hidden your pregnancy to shield your child from rejection, as she did after Ethan's cold dismissal of family? Or would you have risked the truth, despite the pain? Share your thoughts in the comments, and like and subscribe for more stories. Your voice matters to us. Ethan watched the kite, his arm around Maya, Liam's small hand in his. Roxbury's glow surrounded them, a community that had taught him what home meant. He'd once chased success in boardrooms, but here, with his fiancée and son, he'd found a new beginning, soaring like their crooked, imperfect, and utterly beautiful kite.